Hi, can I be heard? Okay, great. Fantastic. All the people at the back bench, I used to be one like you in your life. So don't think I can't see what's going on. Everyone at the back, just telling you. Okay. So I am really, thank you so much for inviting me here. I was so shocked when I got the invitation to come and speak to all of you because I said, I have nothing to do with theoretical sciences. And then I saw statistics and mathematics, and then it has caused much jokes in my family because they are saying you and mathematics. I see numbers and I get palpitations. That was what it was like. The only thing is for me, statistics is sports statistics, which I deal with. Is there anyone here who's dealing with data that will come in data analytics in sport and whatever, anyone who's interested a little bit half in that? Very good decision, because it is like the next field of great opportunity to have a career and make a good income. And because there are sports teams that think that data is God at this point in time. And no doubt you also think it is, but we can differ on it and discuss it later. Now, how many of you follow the news as such? I'm so happy to see so many hands. I know that the question I'm going to ask after this is going to break my heart. How many of you follow the news through old media like newspapers, magazines? Well done, everybody. I am so happy. Okay. How many of you are sports fans? Oh, even better. This is going to be much easier than I thought. I was like thinking I would like work my way through all these serious maths and stats and science people and whatever. Anyhow, no, that's great. So before I came here, I said, look, and I said, how am I going to compete with plasma? How can I match plasma for what plasma has done? How can I fight plasma? I have to say, no, but I have to say that I am daunted and I'm in awe of people that work in mathematics and in science. And, my understanding of physics is very limited. But anytime a scientist starts talking, my mouth falls open and I'm listening and saying, really? Is that what it's like? So I have the greatest respect. What I do is just a very different sort of way, how I operate and so on. So I was I was asking Dootika, I said, what do I say? How do I talk about this? She said, please don't give sad stories that it's going to be tough for all the STEM girls because they've been listening to it their whole life. I said, okay, no sad story. So I'm going to tell you little happy stories, first of all. So I've been working for about 33 years. I am a pre-internet person. I have used typewriter and telex machine. Google it later, you'll see what a telex machine was. So in case there is an EMP blast and all electronics in the world, all computers in the world get zapped, I know how to communicate with the outside world. Just telling you, that's how old I am. So I'll just give you sort of two little its and bits of pieces of things and stories and whatever is to say. I've been working for 30 years. Stay the course. All of you just stay the course. No matter what happens, how terrible it is, whatever else is there, you get depressed, you want to do something, you hate numbers suddenly. Just stay the course, because it is important that you give longevity to your career. So at one point I was told, I had this sort of, when women's cricket became a thing in 2017, somebody said, how much women's cricket have you covered? And I was really ashamed that I had not covered much. And I was trying to explain it to myself. I said, why didn't I do it? Why didn't I follow? What was the reason or whatever? And the excuse that I gave myself or that I give other people is the reason I covered so much of men's cricket. Cricket is, of course, the #1 sport that everyone follows, etc., etc. He said, why did you cover so much cricket? I said, I covered cricket for more than 25 years or whatever, full focus. Is that when anyone says anything, I can stand up and say, don't talk shit. I know you're talking rubbish. That time of putting in the time in and doing the work and getting all the things to build yourself the confidence to be stand up to somebody and say, it doesn't matter if I'm a woman, don't talk shit about cricket because you don't know what you're talking about. I do. So make sure that you're building that insurance. This is like an insurance policy for the future. So life is great at this point in time. I can say whatever I want to whoever I want. I don't work for an organization, which also helps. I am not answerable to any sort of boss or whatever. So that's the #1 message. Yeah. So build your experience, build your knowledge, and become formidable in your field. You don't have to boast about it. You don't have to sort of preen or whatever. You don't even have to get awards, but just become formidable that everyone says, I'm not messing with this person because she knows her shit. So just I'm giving happy messages here. Okay. So because it happens, I swear to you, it works. It works. I have another friend who is another woman who works in sports, and this has nothing to do with your field and science and the kind of people that you will be working with and your colleagues and your seniors. But I'm just telling you, this is hamari dunya, our world. So I have a friend who works in the sports industry. She was in charge of selling media rights for the International Cricket Organization Council. She was in charge of doing. How many of you watch cricket people, sports people? So you know when people come out, the kids come out carrying flags and all that, a World Cup, and you know the sweet music and all that. Those are the programs and everything that these people put into place. And she was one of the people that's there. Nobody used to mess with her because she was a really, really tough person, and she like fought her corner and everything. So she was talking to me one day. She had an unfortunate sort of exit from the ICC. Long story. Later, I'll tell you outside. Not recorded and not shared also. I know that's happening. She said, every time I walk into a sports type of a boardroom, that's why I'm saying sports boardroom, no mention of science and mathematics and research. Every time I walk into these big sports boardrooms, all I see around me are incompetent men. And I started laughing when she said that. And I repeated it to somebody else. This I don't know whether I should say, but anyway, it's too late. I repeated it to somebody else who had run a very, very big cricket tournament in her country. And there was like this Zoom call going on, and she fell off laughing when she heard that comment because obviously it resonated with her. So that's the fun story. It's actually easier than you think. There'll be, not in science and maths, I'm just saying generally, not in. Okay. So now fundamentally, I am, like I said, I'm a storyteller. I like to tell stories. And I have found out, I was sitting outside and making notes. The lady security guard outside, her name is Rita. She lives 7 kilometers from here. She has been working here for 5 years, and she has a TVS, what is that, scooty that takes her home every day. Because I talk to Rita, it's my habit, I just do it. So I found this out about Rita. So this is what our journalist life is. But let me tell you another thing. It took me 4.5 years to ask a question at a press conference. I was terrified when I was sort of just slightly older than you are. I was too scared that I would ask a stupid question. So it took me 4.5 years to get the courage to be able to talk. Like I said, build it, become formidable. Yeah. So those are the sort of things that are there in the kind of work we do. And one of the other, I want to use the story of the wrestlers to tell you about how news works. Yeah, so all of you who read newspapers will also see this. I just want to show you 3 headlines. And so this is the pages of the paper that we get at home. There's this one. And can you see it says wrestlers detained, forcibly removed from Jantar Mantar. Yeah, so this is Indian Express. And the other one, can you see that's the Deccan Herald, this is the Deccan Herald papers. Yeah. That's the same one. That's okay. So I'll show you 3 headlines, and you can see how the news has been. Okay, now look, now this is because the parliament has been inaugurated on the same day. For all of us sports journalists, think, what is this dirty size of photograph on the front? It's ridiculous that it's so small. It's wrestler detail. Now the ace is after this that comes. The absolute trick. The Hindustan Times. The one that's got, not this, then the third one. This is how tech, whatever I didn't even bring a. Oh gosh, this is fantastic. Okay, let me just send this across. Yeah, this is nonsense. I'll just send it across and send here. Okay, so this is the photograph, right? This is the picture that actually has gone around the world. How many of you saw it before today? This is the picture that's gone around the world, and that's why all this response has come and whatever. So I want you to tell me what is the headline you give this picture. I'm giving you like 30 seconds before I send the headline. Someone come up with a headline in 30 seconds. Headline. You want the headline? I want the headline for this photograph. If you were the editor of the website or whatever. Please don't read my email. Mic is off. Where's the mic gone? It's fallen down. Yeah. Come on. Don't. No, there it is like the most adbhut headline you have ever found. You want to get your mic on? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, just a minute. Take it. We are recording this one.
You need to use.
Yeah, I'm happy to use a mic. It didn't go off on purpose. Don't accident here. Yeah, found it. Let me mute you now. Adrian, come on. Okay, who's come up with the headline?
She wants a headline, by the way.
Who's come up with the headline?
Madam, this one. Just join this tag together. Which then will get this two tag. Can I put it?
Yeah, put it. Okay, that's right. Has anything else come? Yeah, thanks. It should have come now. Okay, who's got a headline? Put your hand up and tell me. Don't feel shy. Come on. Headline. Anybody? Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
We could have something like wrestling for life.
That's nice. It's not a newspaper headline, but it's good. Yeah, but it's okay. So, okay, look at this genius headline here. Wrestlers protest organizers booked on charges of writing. They are not telling you that so it could be laborers protest organizers. It could be random aliens protest organizers. It's got no context with that photograph and the enormity of the incident that has happened. So what you're seeing here is that the headline that in that event is tried to be played down. It is on page number 5. You can't see it here. Yeah, it's on page number 5, which is the third page when you open the newspaper. Fortunately, it's on the right-hand side. So when you put a story on the right-hand side, at least the person sees it first thing before seeing. The ultimate slur used to be that your article goes on the left-hand side because no one reads. So what we're looking at here is how you have built a narrative around a photograph, which is now going to be remembered. All of you have seen it. Some of you are sports fans, which is great. So an event like this has never happened in Indian sport ever. Since the time we became independent, our athletes have never gone on the road. It's not that they didn't have anything to complain about. They've just not gone on the road and given a dharna or done whatever. So what you try to do as someone that's writing a story, ideally in a perfect world, you want to write the story the way you see it. So the political reporter will look at the story and say, what is the political angle on this story? Why are they protesting? Who is supporting them? The sports reporter is going to say, this is outrageous that the athletes are on the streets like this, what's happening. So that's the angle that they're going to sort of pursue and they're going to look at. And I did a story on the wrestlers' protest for a website called The Voice of Fashion. Now, it sounds like it's a really strange place for that story to be, but it's just another way of looking at what that story was. So the article was about, I used this picture, that other photograph, last time. I used the picture of, and it didn't come to me as a brilliant genius idea. The editor of The Voice of Fashion, she suggested it. She said, we have a segment there we call intersections, which talks about culture and talks about, fashion is not just about catwalks and clothes. Fashion is about what people wear. Fashion is about who wears what. Why do athletes wear this? There are many, many, many things. Textiles, heritage, with the business of money, kapda, all that stuff. It's also this kind of thing. So I took this photograph, and what I did was, I said, in a wrestling bout, if you're lying on your back with your shoulders on the ground, you are what is called pinned. You are defeated. So if you're fighting and I'm fighting, I've collected 3 points, and there are various, wrestling point system is fairly, it may look like that there are people not doing anything. They're just standing there crouched and pulling and tugging, but it's a really complicated, very tough sport. And so I said, you're pinned, but this photograph is not one of defeat. She has not been defeated. What she's doing is she's resisting. So I just used this element of what you knew about the sport, what you could see in the story, and then you go on into many, many, many kind of different ways that are there into it. So this is sort of a very serious topic. It's been going on for about a month now. We are all very angry and agitated about it. Even the act that they said we're going to throw our medals in the water. It was a huge event. They didn't throw the medals in the water. How many of you think they should have thrown the medals in the water? Thank God, sensible people. Because there was so literally sports reporters called me up in the evening and said, but it's really bad. You know, why didn't they throw the medals in the water? First of all, they're not your medals to throw. They're their medals to throw. And it's good that all of you have responded in this manner because you understand what that medal means for the person that is there. That's why they were crying. That's why they were upset. And I want to say, it's not like we won a lot of Olympic and World Championship medals anyway. It's not that we've got medals to dispose of. Yeah. So you are just looking at now the new sort of story that's going around about this story is that the medals belong to the state because it's the public taxpayers' money that has gone into giving the medals. So I've just come here after writing about that as well. So you're trying to chase angles, and it's literally like every sort of stink bomb that appears somewhere, you try to shut it down with logic and argument and whatever. So what happens in sports, for example, everyone thinks a lot of sports writing is fun. A lot of sports writing, when you start out, it's what we call mythology. Who would not want to write a piece about Shubman Gill today in this group? Put your hands up and say, who are the Shubman Gill fans here? Who doesn't know Shubman Gill? Do find out. Google will tell you. So when you start out as a sports reporter, you are writing basically, I keep telling people that you don't become a sports journalist. I mean, you can only become a sports journalist if you love sport. So that's sort of another thing. That the other, I forgot I had mentioned this in my note and I didn't mention to you, my bhashan at the beginning was that whatever happens to you outside from external environments and whatever, the work that you do, the subject that you've taken, you are consumed by that subject, right? You love numbers, you love stats, you love this. And you love it to a point of nonsense logic. Like there's no reason why. It's like me and sports, it's the same thing. You have that same, your mind works that way. So if you have that going for you, that'll get you through a lot of stuff. That'll get you through all the bad stuff very easily. So, and you'll retain you have to find a way to retain what is that basic essential love that you have for this thing that you do. Forget about everything else it brings. So there was a point in time when I used to cover, I was working for the Hindu. I worked for them for about 6.5 years out of their Bombay office. I used to cover volleyball in Baroda. It was called, so it's not like I went to all the glamorous events from day one. I went to volleyball in Baroda. And it was an event that was being competed between what were these public sector companies like the banks. So there was a banks, there were teams from various banks. There were teams from, it was called the inter-institutional. So there were teams from banks, teams from petroleum companies. There were teams from, what's the other thing? Banks, petroleum, and there's some 3 segments and they all were competing. And I was covering it and I just loved it and I enjoyed it. And I honestly could have done that for the rest of my life because that's how much sport consumed me. So it is that important that you can get swept away in all of it. Then as you grow older, your subject and the people that are in it, you kind of little bit of the stardust goes away. You stop being a fan of X or Y because they really turn out to be not so very nice or fair people. Nice as in they don't have to be nice, but they can at least be fair and truthful and honest. It doesn't happen. So then you realize that what you fundamentally love is not those celebrities and the stars, is you love the sport itself. You love the act of sport. So someone asked me, how can you keep writing this for so many years? I said, so the reason I do it is because when I die, whenever that is, or all of us die, and someone wants to find out what happened in Indian sport at the time, that there is a record of what has happened. That this is actually what was that version of the most accurate description of what took place with these wrestlers, with whatever else that's there, with somebody's inning, with all those kind of things. So that's one sort of part of how my life as a journalist and my career and my grew, because then you discover different. I have no urge to go and see cricket matches anymore on the ground, particularly if I'm not working. If I'm working, then I'll go. Otherwise, I'll watch on TV. I don't have any urge to go because I've seen the matches. I still love cricket. I still love cricketers. I think Shubman Gill is fantastic. All the Shubman Gill fans will see. I can see her smiling and laughing and nodding her head. So you're ahead in the queue, don't mind. So that is still there. That still remains. That's what the essence, the essence of it still remains. But at the same time, you cannot forget, you can't leave these kind of things behind, right? You have to be, you get immersed and you get swept up and you get swept up into it. And the thing about lateral thinking is like, so I was talking again to Dootika, she said, listen, everyone here, you had some linear algebra or something like that. One thing that was there, which was just too terrifying to me. But what we do as journalists is we always think laterally, always. It is like a really dirty habit. You just do it all the time. Because now once television came into the game, what are you going to write on TV that everyone has seen on TV? What else are you going to write about it the next day? So you're always looking for something else. You're always looking for something from some other kind of a angle or a place or whatever. So I had a friend who once did a story on Vishwanathan Anand. Now chess, for example, how many chess fans, fanatics? It's a good number. Chess is not to the lay audience, it's very difficult to get as excited about chess as about centuries and whatever. Chubman, all that. Yeah. So what he did was he went to meet Vishwanathan Anand and he took some games with him. And he said, tell me what these games are. These are random matches, chess matches. He picked up the picture of a position in that particular game. And he said, identify this for me. He went to his house in Chennai. And Vishwanathan Anand identified each and every one of them correctly. Because that was his skill. So that was his art. That was his genius of it. And it's not genius. It's just that it's like, he says, it's like a pattern appears before you and you recognize it and you see it. Now for the lay person who's reading that, then you are given to understand what is the enormity of this guy's talent and what he does and what the whole sort of business of his genius is about. It's this. So we have to try and convey in as much detail and as much newness as possible. Every event, every person, how many times am I going to, for example, write that Virat Kohli is a great batsman? How can you write it all the time? It's said, the commentators say it so many times that you have to believe them, and it is true. But as a writer, what are you going to do? How are you going to look at this? So then you use stats. Stats are great. Stats help you in a way to be able to see if there's a pattern in how he's behaving, whatever, how his scores are turning up. Cricket is getting extremely data sort of driven. They've got this website called CricWiz, which tells you impact point. What's the other one called? There's an impact like an impact number that you can give to how somebody has played the shot. Control. There's control. What is the level of control of the batsman who's played the shot? It's one person sitting there is just logging the entry in. There's control and there's intent. So intent is like you're reading his mind, but from what you're seeing in the picture, that's what you're doing. You're reading the person's, did he actually mean to play this? Did he not? Whatever. So you have to find these different ways. You're always looking for new ways. For a younger generation of journalists, they are trying to use social media. They're trying to use video. They're trying to use GIFs. I don't like millions of things to be able to tell the story in a way that is unique and is sort of different. What are your main topics of interest in sport per se? What is it that you like? Those of you who are sports fans, there was a large number that raised their hand. What in cricket? Okay, what in the IPL is what is a question in the IPL that you'd want someone to write an article about that you didn't know? You have to look at something that you don't know, because that's when you're going to take the trouble to read it. So that's the lateral idea that you're looking for, you know. So what? Say. Good one. But that is like a whole subcategory in sports itself. Like you can write sociology, psychology, stats, physics, biology, everything comes into it. Reason of pattern of failure. Yeah, good topic. What else? What else interests you? European football, I'm gathering. Okay. Yeah. What? Okay, very good. I'm happy. Yeah. So what in football would you want to read about that has not been written before? Okay. Yes. We have Arsenal fans in our office group that are in great trauma at this point. So are you an Arsenal fan or are you City fan? Or you're just Liverpool. Okay. All right. That's another, yeah. So, and what I'll tell you another thing that's happening. Another sort of a story sort of telling habit. Now there's trouble happening in Manipur, like going on and on and on for months. There is a story that was published in the Hindustan Times about two footballers and how their houses were burnt down. One of them was a Kuki living in a Meitei area, one of them was a Meitei living in a Kuki area. And you have, as a sports journalist, that's the angle that you'll immediately go for, that if this is happening there, whatever the politics is there, what's happening in the sports? How is it affecting sports people, athletes, people I know? You know, that's the kind of thing that you go looking for. That's the kind of story that you kind of want to follow or chase or whatever. So there's a story of these, and the more that you, so what is your interest in Indian football about? Which team? The Indian football team. Okay. Based on what are you saying this? Okay, that's fine. So because see, that's good because that's her approach. I'm looking at it. But do you know in 1962 they won the Asian Games gold medal? That's not the answer that a journalist of today's generation is going to want to answer. They're going to say, where are we in the here and the now? And let's look at it from that sort of perspective. So every time you look at any kind of event that happens in sport, it's not one thing that's going on. It's not Neeraj Chopra has won that gold medal and because he had a fantastic throw with the javelin. It's not that. It is that what's happened behind it, the whole story that leads to it. So all these other sort of bits and pieces and things that you put together and you fit together. And now also the other thing that's happening in sport is that there's business, there's money. How many of you are following that, what is it called? Fantasy games? How many of you follow fantasy sport? No idea, no? It's a big stats thing, I'll tell you. Nobody? Fantasy sports? Okay. What fantasy sports does is that it makes you pick, some IPL is going on or football is going on. You pick your team based on your, whatever you feel like, this is my team for today. And every single player in your team gets points. And then you are actually competing with others with those points. So now everyone's saying this is basically gambling. Some people are saying, no, this is skill. So the business in this is like in billions of dollars in India. And it has grown over the last maybe 8-10 years. All the ads that you see, what is that? What is that? Dream 11, My Dream 11, whatever, it's all fantasy. So it's all, that's also extremely, supposedly heavily stats related. You're saying it's gambling, the gambling people are saying, no, it's skill. We are taking the trouble to find out these things. So can you see that in just a business of sports, when I started with doing my volleyball of institutional, I'm writing a match report. This happened, this one played matches. They won over, that was my thing. I was in my 20s at the time. And now I'm looking around and there's this whole world of the wrestlers are on the ground getting hammered by the police. You've got fantasy sports is going on. RCB haven't won anything in 15 years. Yeah. So you've got all these sort of various stories and elements that are coming into play. That's the kind of job that is there. And that's why there is fun in it. That's why I enjoy it. How are you doing on time? I've got 26 minutes left. No, that's fine. Whatever questions you want to ask me, do you want to do an exercise at this point to find out something or the other, or you'd rather not do an exercise? It's been a long day. You're always doing exercise. To write a report of something that you see, no. Immediately. Yeah. Okay. So this is the piece about the wrestling. Thank you for showing. This is the piece about the wrestling, about how they used what are wrestling skills to be able to fight against the police, or rather not fight against the police. So one of the things I said was that these are I don't think any of us, including myself, realize how extremely talented and how difficult what they do actually is, how extremely competent they are. They could, in a second, if they wanted, break my wrist, your wrist, everybody's wrist. They are so well trained and but they are careful of how they use their power. We don't understand. I think as sports journalists, what we are always trying to tell people is, whatever you see, what a stupid shot he played. You have no idea at which speed the ball came to him. You had no idea, because what you can't see on television is speed. You can see everything else, you cannot see speed. And when you're watching a match at the ground, or you're watching, when you watch tennis, high quality tennis, if you watch what not normal national level tennis, you'll say, I didn't see the ball. So you don't have an understanding of the skill that it requires to compete at that level. There is always a habit that a lot of journalists have and a lot of younger people have, that they'll play games and they'll compete and say, in this day I did this, I did that. Corporate golf and corporate tennis and all, extremely boring for me, because that is not high level sport. High level sport is almost like it's an unreachable thing. And you have to be able to somehow explain to people, why is it difficult? You have to tell them what is the secret sauce in this person who is a star, who is doing something great or whatever it is. So someone always says, okay, a friend of mine says, suppose I got stuck in a lift with Lionel Messi, what would I ask him? He said, first of all, I'll be so annoyed that I don't know Spanish. So he's saying he really wants to learn Spanish. Just suppose he's stuck in a lift with Lionel Messi, what does he ask him? So the other story that you have to tell them is that the other thing that I love telling stories about is we met this footballer who had come to Bangalore. His name was Vikas Dorasu. He played for France in the 2006 World Cup, the one where Zidane headbutted Materazzi, if anyone remembers. Very well before your time, never mind. So Vikas Dorasu is about, just stand up for a second. Just stand up, let me see. He's about this build, even smaller perhaps. And he's talking to these footballing kids, and he said, sit. Thank you. So he said, I play football for France. He said, and Messi is smaller than me. So that's whatever happens at that point in time, if you're a sports fan, it just still blows your mind. I am in my 50s and it still blows my mind. So you're just left with all these many things that are there. And literally you find that you want to be able to tell these stories to everybody. You want to tell them to everyone in whatever way. What you see at high level elite sport is there's almost a dismissal of this kind of skill, because it says, oh, he made a mistake, it was so bad, which is fine. As a commentator, you're allowed to say that and you're allowed to just talk about it. But I think you have to be able to remind people how often, exactly how difficult top class sport is. Another great stat and story that I love sharing is, how much time do you think a player gets when in a football match? How much time does a player get the ball? How much time does he on the field does he get the ball during the 90 minutes that's there? Less than, it's like the percentage of time a player gets. If someone spends 7 or 8 minutes on the ball, it's like another level of performance, because it's not with one person, it's moving around everywhere. And so when that comes to you, you should be able to use sort of what is space. So the other great thing about science that I have is when I see this whole understanding of space, how people use space and what they do with it, is another sort of great mystery and this thing for me. So I wrote a piece once on this hockey player called Rani Rampal, who was our captain. She's again tiny, her height and build basically. I'm just because it is a fact, I can't help it. So, but the thing is that she's one of those magic people that is able to be there at the right place at the right time. And it's literally like, so when they say that, all great athletes, they have an extra second of time, but actually they do, to be able to everyone else is rushing around and Rani is just taking 2 steps and she's hit the goal. At that point in time, when everyone else has just collapsed because they are so tense, so they are not able to think clearly. And all that has happened with her is that she has worked on her game so much in the time that we have not seen, over and over again, till the point of utter and absolute perfection, that when the time comes, she's there and she has understood what is going to happen 2 seconds before it has happened. So in football particularly, you'll see, this is the science bit that I really love, that you'll see this thing about space and how do people use space and what it does. And football players talk about it like it's almost like a natural thing. It must be, but it just sounds too it blows my mind when I think of how this is happening. And there are 22 people on the field and everyone's able to do. The same thing happens in sports like rugby or whatever, where you have to pass behind. And it's almost like they said, when a team plays very well, it's like there are 22 legs and no, not 22, it's 15 in rugby. It's like 15 pairs of legs and hands, but with one central nervous system. That's how really good teams are supposed to work. So that's some of the joy of writing and talking and doing things about sport, and the tough thing is the actual writing of it. The fun thing is talking to people, talking, asking them questions, saying, what is this, what is that, what do you do, how do you do, and asking them stupid questions. Like it took me 4.5 years to ask a question because I thought I was going to ask a stupid one. Sometimes the stupidest questions, you get the best answers, you know. So that's basically what my life has been like. That's basically what, and now you realize that you're able to separate. It's easy to write, frankly, the emotional story. It's easy to write the story about how fantastic someone is, how great somebody is. That gets you the most clicks, that gets you the most attention. That's his. I mean, people have been writing about Tendulkar forever, you know, since he started playing in 89 and I started working. So everybody says, tell me how great Tendulkar is, and then you'll find another angle and another way to write it, and you do whatever. And you'll be able to do it, and you'll be able to bring up that emotional part about you again. But the tough story to write is the one that is about the wrestlers, what's happening in sports like hockey, or what is happening, why do people get, why do we pay? And it's not a question of, okay, cricket has covered everything. It really doesn't matter. Cricket's doing what cricket is doing. There are many flaws in cricket. But it's like getting to the unpopular story, the story in which you have clearly worked out the logic. You've clearly worked out what is wrong and what's going on. So I'll tell you another cricket story. The BCCI makes tons of money, like larger than some states' GDP, they say. I don't know the exact numbers, but it is. They say they made this money. They have something called, oh, maths and stats, people love this. They have something called a gross revenue sharing agreement. Yeah. So now that gross revenue sharing agreement, it's like this ephemeral thing. We don't know what it's about. We don't know how much the money is. It started at one point about 20 years ago where they said, they told the cricket players, you will get 26%, as in cricketers will get 26% of our gross revenue from broadcast rights. Of that 26%, half of it will be divided with the international team, and the other half will go to all the domestic players in the country. So it sounds uneven, but the money was so crazy at the time that it still made a good money. Now, for the last 20 years or so, cricketers have been getting 15 lakh to between 15 and 20 lakh rupees a season for the last 20 years. Would you work in an organization where your salary never went up? Over 20 years. And they get these messages, they get these emails saying, please send us an invoice for your gross revenue sharing. This is now IPL has come in. There is this money of the IPL and broadcast rights, and they are selling digital rights, and they are selling your television rights, and they're selling all other rights. Someone I know got a thing saying, your gross revenue sharing invoices for 7,000 rupees for the year from BCCI. You're one cricketer. How can my gross revenue sharing, which is whatever percentage of the 13.5, be 7,000 rupees? If you're making millions and millions and millions of rupees and crores, it can't be. So that is like the story. That's like everyone saying, why are you getting hassled about this? Why do you keep going on about this? But that's the story you have to find out. Why is someone getting paid 7,000 rupees for gross revenue sharing? If the revenue is $5 billion, how is my gross revenue sharing 7,000 rupees? They've done a lot of tricks and whatever else, and how to see. I told you this is maths and stats thing. One of you must get into it and work out a proper, make this your thesis, work out a proper, cricketers will thank you, proper salary, what's it called? The countries that have players organizations, player unions and such, they come to collective bargaining agreements. And on the basis of that, they get this 25 or 26% or whatever it is. We don't have a player organization. And but that's why you get 7,000 rupees for your. So just think about it. How are you able to come to that figure? How little does your gross revenue have to be if you get 7,000 rupees? Okay, there are like 35 or 38 Ranji Trophy teams. They don't have contracts, but assume that they'll all say 20 of them will play in a season. Do that multiplication, then you work it out how many players are there. And then you come, it'll still not be 7,000. Every time I ask people, what is this number? Okay, so all of us are asking numbers like because we don't know how this thing works in the sense. It's just a rough thing. If Sam Curran is getting 17 crores, that means there must be some money in the market for the player who plays for Arunachal or whatever it was. So I said, okay, what is the figure that you come? And the maximum somebody came up with was confidently 30 lakhs. I said, yeah, that sounds reasonable, 30 lakhs. Based on nothing, just gut. No maths, no model, nothing, just gut. 30 lakhs is the number we came up with. But it's not 7,000. What is the difference between 30 lakhs and 7,000? It's not even like halfway there. So this is all the stuff that happens when you're a sports journalist. Your mind is in 25 different directions. Most of now I'm thinking I should have called up a statistician and said, do a model of this and tell me what they should get. I should have done that earlier. I've just thought about it. It's in my head now. To find out that what is it? So someone said, no, they have taken the IPL out of this calculation. So why? If the IPL is a domestic tournament, why have you taken it out of the calculation? Why is it not there? So there's all these nefarious sort of things that are going on. So we do, but at the same time, you still love sport. You still love sport because it is what it is. It's able to give you the bits and pieces of magic, and that's what you like about it. But you've got to do all the other things that are there as well. I know I didn't do the model. So I've got 15 minutes left. I've pretty much done with what I had to say. And I hope you have been entertained. But is there any, do you have any questions? Please feel free to ask. Now people are yawning, which is a very bad sign. So I'm stopping talking and please ask questions. Yeah. I had a very good and responsive group here. You've all laughed at my jokes. I'm very happy. But now please ask me questions. Is there anything? Yes. Excellent. Two. I was a fan, and my friend in college told me we are big fans of Imran Khan. Before he was Imran Khan, the politician, he was a superstar of the kind you cannot imagine without social media also. Imran Khan was coming one day I always knew, because I was studying humanities, I always knew that I either wanted to do journalism, and I used to like writing, reading words, wanted to do journalism or advertising. These are the two professions that were there. We had very little option. This is like the 1990s. So this is like, I'm just realizing they are all like born in 2000 or something. It's too disturbing. So this is the 1990s. And my friend, who was a bigger fan of Imran Khan than all of us, said, let us go and interview Imran Khan. And we'll tell him we are doing for college magazine. Let us see. So that's what we did. We went and we interviewed Imran, and he answered our questions. And he was, you don't have mobile phones, his hotel phone picked up. And then we managed to do that. And we got it printed in a newspaper and in the afternoon. Anyone from Bombay here? Mumbai? No? Afternoon newspaper doesn't exist anymore, no? Afternoon Dispatch and Courier, before your time. Over. Midday's rival, which is now not alive anymore. So they published it, and then Midday actually advertised for a sports reporter, which no one advertises for sports reporters. Because it's like the most lukha people get into sports reporting. That's the assumption, that if you can't get into anything else, you get into sports reporting. But it's become very tough, so it's not really like that. So they advertised, and I went to them and I said, look, this is what I've done. My friends and I did this. We published this. They said, okay, when can you join? I was like, okay, this is great. So I said, but I'm going on vacation because I'm going to Nagpur. There is a match in Nagpur. Please cover it for us with that telex machine and all that. So they gave me a card. I used the telex machine. I wrote a short report on the match. They said, that will be your test. I said, okay, fine. And then I joined work for Midday. So that's what I did. And that's all that I have done. That is my skill. Yes, sorry, you.
Ma'am, given that how passionate you are about sports, and mostly because we spoke about cricket, how do you even get annoyed by how cricket has been, I think it's reached its saturation point because it's been exploited for data, or even given the corruption, the match fixing charges during the IPL.
Yeah.
So do you feel annoyed, or how did you deal with that if you felt annoyed or disturbed?
I mean, you get angry, but at the same time, I know that I believe that this whole theory of left and right brain has been thrown into the dustbin by neurologists. So I will accept that it does not exist anymore. But what you do is you do separate your emotion, and you get angry, you get frustrated, but then you said, let me see what more I can get on this. Let me follow the story. That becomes that. So with all journalists, no matter what you do, they'll be sitting there like this and someone will be talking, and then I have to tell you another really funny story. It cannot go on social media because it's just garbage, but anyway. So this is the World Cup in 2011. My friend and I, Neeru Bhatia, works for the weekend me. We are in a bus. We are traveling from somewhere to somewhere. We are going from India's just lost a match in Nagpur. We are going from Nagpur to cover the next game. We're standing in the airport bus. And there's a lady standing there and she's talking. And she said, no, she's the in-laws are fine. She ends up, and we were standing like this. It's sleepy. We've been there and all. It turns out she's MS Dhoni's wife. And the moment she's talking, both of us were like, okay, eavesdropping, and everything is on. All our ears are open, our ears are flapping. We're trying to get it. So this is what we are. We are kidas. It doesn't stop. It happens. It is like a dirty habit. It literally, we just switched on. So when that happens, when you see match fixing and all that, you get really annoyed. You get really upset and you feel like an idiot. Like when this whole Azharuddin thing happened and whatever happened, you just feel like an ass that someone is taking you for a ride. But at the same time, you want to know, how did this happen? Who is this person? So this is what I'm saying, lateral thinking. Where did he stay? What did he eat? Why did he do this? It's all those things that come into your head. And you will try and trace it to whoever you can possibly reach out to and say, tell me something. I want to know. Do you know this? That's how you deal with it. You feel bad, and you realize in a way a lot of your innocence goes. And then you just keep going because you like fundamentally what is this little piece of action or batting or bowling or something great that happens. Like the series where we beat Australia, when we had 36 for 9 and whatever. Fantastic. So that's what you kind of get energized by all over again. So I think your writing tends to change over time, but there's time when you will still be like enchanted completely.
How do you stay relevant to our generation, as in?
Oh God, don't ask me. I am so happy that I am this age and I've worked 3 jobs and I don't have a job anymore. I'm just thinking like, what do kids want these days? I don't know how I stay relevant to your generation. You tell me. Okay. The other thing is that what you try and do is you try and make sure, because there's so much information, there is so much material going around. You try and convey clarity in a particular, something that just make it very clear, very simple. So like, why are we talking about whatever? I mean, so the other thing that's going to happen to cricket, all cricket fans, please be warned, is going to be 2020 all year round, everywhere. So I wrote a column in which I said the earthquake is coming. So I'm just listening to this. I'm just listening to the, what is that, under the ground? I mean, I've seen the seismograph and it's going like a little bit, but the earthquake is coming. 2020 is going to take the thing over. So even in that sense, there's a sense of sadness that it's going to happen, but there's also a certain practicality. You can't not deal with this generation and say, oh, this 2020 is kachra and test cricket is great and I don't watch 2020. That I don't want to do. I just look at 2020 and franchise cricket. I like international 2020 because I'm old fashioned. Franchise cricket, I look at it anthropologically. Like it is some other creature, and let me look at this other creature and analyze this other creature in its own way. So I'll try and read about what data does, what's happening. That's the kind of thing I try and read it to be able to tell to people that what it's about. But what everyone likes the story of the kid that came from nowhere. That's also the fun story that'll happen. But everyone's doing that. You just have to find something a little bit original, hatke as they say in Bollywood, that kind of thing, just to be able to talk. But to be relevant to your generation is clarity, and don't diss everything that was not your zamane ka. Treasure what you liked in your zamana, but still. Fantastic. 1 question there, 2 questions there. I'm very happy. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So ma'am, I really like the line that you said that all the great athletes have that 1 extra second. And actually that kind of brought me back to the question that I had in the beginning of the session when you said that it took you 4.5 years to ask your first question. Now, you said that there are a lot of differences between journalism and science, but I think this is one thing that is very common between both of us, that we need to ask questions. Otherwise, it's problematic in the long run.
True.
So I think that when I went to my first conference and I had trouble asking questions, thinking that I will lose my credibility in front of the scientists whom I'm asking to. They'll think that I'm stupid.
Yeah.
So how do you deal?
Identical. Same. Huh.
So how do you deal with that? If you end up asking a stupid question that later on you feel that is stupid, and everybody kind of questions your credibility. Being a woman, anyhow, our credibility is questioned in a lot of ways. Yeah. So how do you kind of deal with
Science
that?
is different. Sports journalism, let me tell you, is not a very smart space. Okay. So I went to Wimbledon. Yeah, I won once only in 1992, before all of you were even ideas in any of your parents' heads. And there was this is Wimbledon, okay, so oh God, this is the great Wimbledon, this is fantastic. Huh? And there's a guy there who says, Boris, why do you spit so much? And I said, if he can ask that question and still stand in the press conference, how stupid will my question be? So it was a British tabloid journalist just doing what British tabloid journalists do. And that was the thing. Why do you spit so much? So in science, it's completely different, I understand. You know, there's no, I'm sure all your peers around you will never reach this high intellectual level that this guy was talking about. But that was the thing. That kind of eased me off a little bit because I said, all right, it's fine to ask a silly question here. The reason I asked that question is that I was so angry. Finally, I did ask the question in the press conference because again, that time, that was something rubbish. And I was so irritated. I said, no, but, and someone tried to cut me off. And I said, let me ask the question. And that guy was, so that was the first question I asked. And now, of course, because there was not that much media management as it is now. And it's not that, you know, that's the thing. But just ask your question honestly. Whatever it is, ask your question. Let the world think what they want to do. Remember, 25 years later, you'll be able to shut up. Welcome.
I had a
Yes.
question.
And there's one there. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So there's a lot of misinformation going around, right?
Yes.
And as journalists, you are kind of in charge
Sometimes the
of-
sources of it. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the
We
sources
ag-
of
yeah,
it. So,
yeah. My community has to answer for a lot. Yeah.
so what do you think? Are there any good angles or like bad angles when you
It's-
think of writing a story? So you
There's
always talk about having angles.
it's like truth or lies. That's fundamentally the thing that is there. Are you going to write what is closest to the truth, or are you going to write propaganda? That's all that it is. And if the information that you have is X, no, I'm not going there. If the information that you have is some X, whatever, those many factors, then you have to write it out. You have to be as truthful as possible. It could be your most favorite person who has told you, athlete or whatever, who's told you a lie, but if you found out the contrary, you have to just be able to write it. And just to make that person look better, now when you go down that rabbit hole, then there's no end. You know, once you go down that path, then there's no end to it because everyone is going to take advantage of ye lukho. And in cricket journalism, it's full of that kind of stuff.
So how do you hold yourself accountable?
I mean, you
Because-
just have to write what you see is truthful and say this person is saying this, but we see that this is what it is. You've said what the person has said. I have to tell you this other thing about journalism, which is not sports, other journalism. Crime reporters, they have the most interesting stories, way more interesting than sports, because every single, this is crime reporters again of a Purana Zamana, I don't know what is now, because every single those gangster, bhai type people in Bombay and all that, they were on the phone with them. Because they said, whatever you want to write, you write, but you have to give our version out to the world. Whatever that is. So whatever the police is saying, they're saying, but this is my version, please make sure you write it. And they're not gangster, but you know what I'm saying. But you just have to be able to put down what is said as the version of somebody that's involved. But if you have a counter fact, don't be afraid to write that counter fact down. Because it's a fact, you can't change that. You know, facts are sacred. They don't shift, they're just there. Like someone says, it's much easier, telling the truth is much easier than lying, because then you don't have to remember what you said, because it's just there. It just comes out. It's what is there. Yeah. Oh, now you want it. Downfall of hockey. Okay, the downfall of all sports that were good in our country and that we did well, including football, I will tell the football fans at the back, is bad administration and a certain degree of arrogance with how the world was changing, but you're not changing with it. You know, so they didn't, given that hockey had this massive base in India and this great popularity, they didn't look to modernize, professionalize, try and do new things, work out, enough competitions, work out that kind of thing. And then, so kids won't go to play that sport anymore. You know, that's not their first choice in that sense. So that is the thing that happened. Right now, there's a lot of money that's coming back into it because of the Odisha government, and it's like hundreds of crores and whatever. Again, you're not paying the players match fees still. Why is that? So if you're doing, so this is a very medieval attitude towards a sport that you're trying to modernize. You should just make sure there's money on the table for players that come to play. Even if they have jobs in banks or whatever it is, when they play, that's a different part of their profession. Pay them, professionalize basically.
Good evening. So if we extend the spectrum of sports to some
Yes.
non-popular sports like yoga or karate, so
Yeah.
we often listen to some stories that some sportsman gets chance to represent India in
Yeah.
international level, but
Yeah.
they can't do it because of their economical condition and they don't get the sponsorship and all.
Yeah.
So, but they don't get that highlighted in the newspapers and in the media. So
Yeah.
why does this happen? Like,
It's difficult if you're talking about something like, say, particularly yoga, and because yoga's definition as sport is it
yeah, it
competitive?
happens in many other sports
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or even karate. So in karate, now you're saying which karate are you talking about? Which school is it from? Which is the international competition that is there? So the onus of generating enough income revenues for the people that are taking part in it lies on those that are organizing the sport. It doesn't lie on journalists to promote it or to put it out about that this has happened. And it doesn't lie, it's those people that are organizing the sport that have to go to the market and say, give us sponsors because we want to support our athlete. That is a laziness that has been there in our sports administration because they were funded by the government for a very long period of time. They still are. So some are doing well, some are doing not. So a lot of the flaws that there are in how our sports are presented or whatever is a lot of it is governance related, absence of best practice. Let me also say, though, internationally as well, every country has one or two very big sports. America has about 4, Australia has a very divided, big sports market. But other sports like the minor sports are always sort of struggling, fighting. But you'll see that they're trying to do something for their athletes. The athlete is front and center in their entire mission for what they're there for, which is not the case in a lot of these particular places that you see. Yeah.
Okay, so it's already
Time up.
past 6, so we'll conclude the session now. Let us thank Ms. Sharda Ugra once again.